Friends, gather round the fire and get comfy, because I've got a crazy tale for you tonight. A story of jealousy, rage, and murder between star-crossed lovers in 1990s Britain. Our story starts in the nightclubs of Birmingham, where a beautiful wannabe model named Tracy Andrews sets her sights on a local bus driver called Lee Harvey. Now, Lee's no Brad Pitt, but he's a decent, hardworking dude just looking for love. And one night in a club called Baker's, that love smacks him right between the eyes when Tracy sashays across the dance floor. These two hit it off instantly, acting like loved-up teenagers even though Tracy's nearing 30. But Lee's the happiest he's ever been. He brags to his mates Tracy's the hottest lass he's ever dated. At first, they seem a perfect match. Both devoted parents excited to blend their families. But it's not long before the cracks show. Tracy has a fierce temper, flying into jealous rages if Lee so much as glances at another girl. And Lee can be just as possessive, sulking for days if Tracy talks to another guy. Their rows shake the neighborhood, all screaming curses and smashing plates. The cops even get called out a few times to break up their public brawls. But they always end up back together. Well, fast forward a year, and these two still can't get enough of each other, or stop fighting. During one argument, Tracy sinks her teeth into Lee's neck, so deep it looks like a dog attack. But Lee stays loyal, even getting a tattoo of Tracy's name. Talk about whipped. By now, friends and family are begging Lee to ditch Psycho Tracy before he gets himself killed. But Lee pops the question instead, gushing, "Once we're married, Tracy won't feel jealous anymore." Yep, you heard it right. Lee's convinced tying the knot will cure his girl's crazy. But anyone with half a brain can see this speeding train is headed for disaster. One night, the couple hits the town. Tracy's in a micro mini, heels, the whole 9 yards. Now, Birmingham's bars aren't usually Lee's scene, but tonight he fancies a drink. Big mistake. No sooner does he stroll into Baker's than Tracy goes berserk. She catches him chatting with a pretty barmaid and sees red. Next thing Lee knows, Tracy's teeth are buried in his throat as she tries to rip out his jugular. It takes 3 blokes to drag her off him. Lee laughs it off later, even though his neck looks like raw hamburger. "It's just because she loves me so much," he says. But his mom, Maureen, shakes her head, begging him to ditch the crazy blonde while he still can. The final straw comes one cold December night. Tracy and Lee grab some late-night drinks, then head back to Tracy's flat. They're not even 3 miles down the road when their car suddenly veers off and comes screeching to a halt. Moments later, blood-curdling screams rip through the darkness. A nearby cottage owner races out to investigate and stumbles onto a scene from a horror movie. There in the road lies Lee, covered in blood from over 40 stab wounds. His throat's been slashed open right to the spine. When the cops arrive, Tracy spins a tale about a random road rage attack. Apparently, she and Lee were being chased by 2 crazed men in another car. When Lee got out to confront them, the psycho passengers leapt out and stabbed him. The lead detective, Superintendent Brian Russell, eats up her story. Tracy ticks all the victim boxes. Battered woman, fiancé murdered. Overnight, she becomes a tragic media darling. The morning headlines scream in sympathy, plastering glam photos of Tracy next to her blood-streaked crime scene pics. And at a press conference, Tracy milks her audience for all they've got. She breaks down in tears mid-speech, the cameras lapping up her performance. But Superintendent Russell isn't convinced. None of Tracy's various accounts add up, and her shockingly cool demeanor throws up some red flags. Within days, the evidence starts piling up against our drama queen. It turns out no other car was involved that night. Instead, multiple witnesses saw Lee and Tracy arguing shortly before the attack. And here's the cherry on top. Tracy's clothes are drenched in arterial blood spatter, meaning she would have been right on top of Lee as he bled out. Busted. A week after Lee's death, Tracy finds herself in handcuffs, charged with gruesome murder. But this nasty femme fatale has a few more tricks up her sleeve. Out on bail, she tries to flee the country before getting busted at the airport. Once the trial kicks off, her web of lies unravels fast. The prosecution tears through Tracy's fake road rage story in blistering style, and backed into a corner, our conniving Black Widow crumbles. Her confident facade gives way to a whimpering, sniveling mess. After a quick deliberation, the jury finds her guilty of Lee's brutal murder. Tracy collapses in tears as she's sentenced to life in prison, but finds little sympathy. Behind bars, Tracy primps and preens for the cameras at every chance. With her glamour model looks, she becomes prison royalty in record time, and she never shuts up about being framed. But 14 years into her sentence, Tracy's never-ending legal appeals crash and burn. After her last lifeline gets denied, her legal team makes one last-ditch attempt. Tracy pens a heartfelt letter confessing that she did take Lee's life in self-defense. Apparently, they were arguing that night when Lee attacked her with a knife. She managed to wrestle it off him, but saw red and kept stabbing. No one's buying her garbage, least of all, Lee's family. But despite her shaky grasp of the truth, model prisoner Tracy becomes eligible for parole right on schedule. And after a tearful hearing begging for forgiveness, she walks free in 2011. Though for Tracy, freedom comes with a catch. She may be out of her cell, but most folks brand Tracy a cold-blooded killer, no matter where she goes. Going incognito seems her only escape from hatred and heckling. Tracy disappears from view, getting drastic plastic surgery and dyeing her hair. Her current whereabouts remain a mystery to this very day. After her lust for attention turned lethal, making her a tabloid sensation, she's now faded back into the shadows where she belongs.